Hello and welcome to this episode of First Deal Diaries. Today I am joined by a very inspiring, the head coach of property strategy, Dominic Beecheno. Dom, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for being here.
Oh, Danielle, it's an absolute pleasure to be here, and it's a real honor to be able to have this conversation with you and share, all the stuff that inspires me with your audience. So it's a thank you to the audience also for tuning in. I promise you lots of good nuggets to take away.
Absolutely. We had a very brief conversation when we were discussing whether or not it would be suitable for you to come on the First Deal Diaries. And that 10-minute conversation I had with you, I said at the end, it's felt a little bit like therapy. So I think this is going to be a really interesting chat.
I can't help myself.
Dominic, we are going to talk briefly about your first deal, but the main point of having you on here is to help people who are starting out in property or perhaps have lots of training but aren't taking the steps to do their first deal, and how their mindset is perhaps affecting that. So first of all, do tell me about what you are up to these days, where you're working, what you're doing, and what your background is.
It's sort of coming towards the end of 2025, and I think for a lot of people, lots of things are kind of coming to a fore. They're coming to an end. So for me, a lot of things are coming to an end too, including a bit of property stuff. So I've just sort of let go of being head coach at Mastermind with Simon Zucci. Sally's taken on that role now, and also with my other program, that's also coming to an end too. So yeah, there's a number of things that are changing. I'm actually in a transition period, and you know what? Change is not something that people like, and even myself, who kind of knows about it, it's like, actually, can I be comfortable with the end of something? What happens next? I don't have this identity of being, head coach of Mastermind anymore. Who am I now? So 2026 is going to be amazing. I already know it is. I am comfortable being uncomfortable, and I think that's an absolutely essential thing for people to take away, is that can you be comfortable being in the unknown? Because that is where opportunity lies. That is where new things can be created. Whenever you try and create something from the known, it's like, well, it's known, so it's not new. And so you have to create from the unknown, which is like, I don't know what's going to happen next. I don't know what's going to happen if I put in this offer on this property, or I attempt to do this new venture, which is what I'm starting out in with my program, Unleash You. So yeah, there's lots of change at the moment is what's happening for me at the moment. So I haven't got any crystal clear answers for you, I'm afraid.
Sure, but you've got massive experience, 19 years in helping entrepreneurs, 3,000 business owners that you've coached and investors that you've coached, more than that now. So bags of experience in this industry. How did you get into the whole mindset thing?
Yeah. You know what? I was traveling around the world in 2004, 5 rather, and I was like, what am I going to do with my life? Some people ask that question that, they're still in their 40s and 50s. I was very fortunate back, over 20 years ago now, to go to find out about coaching. And I did a short course at a college, and it was like, oh my goodness, this is me. I love helping other people succeed. That is my raison d'être. That is my reason for being on this planet, is to help other people succeed. In their success, I just feel so much fulfillment. And so it's learning about all the things that can help people succeed. So I actually started out, as a coach, and then as also a business advisor, and that's where I met, 2,500 small businesses. Went to every station in London pretty much, and met businesses, whether it was a corner shop, a hairdresser, an architect, distributor of men's magazines. It was like, schools, you name it. I went to see all sorts of businesses to understand their problems, match them with coaches and mentors to help them grow their business, get them training, get them grants back in the day. And I was really fortunate to get a real world view of what it's like to run a business and to help people succeed in that business. And it's from there that it's just grown and grown and grown. And only in the last couple of years that I really understood that actually it's far more about what's going on inside, the internal mindset, rather than the external. Know these things, take these, do these steps, and you'll get there. Actually, that's kind of the easy bit. That's all written in books. That's all stuff that we can research, we can learn about, we can take action on. But why is it that people don't necessarily succeed, even though they've got the right knowledge? And that's what's fascinated me, and that's my every day I get up, and that's the question I love to answer. How can I help this person succeed more? What's holding them back in particular? And obviously there's some general things, but obviously there's specific ones as well for people. So that's
Eh,
that's that's what I love to do every day, and I continue to do.
That's a lovely reason to get up in the morning. So, talking about
Yeah,
taking
thank you.
action, tell me about your first deal. It's a bit of a fun story, a bit tongue in cheek, but I'm sure we'd all love to hear it.
Yes, indeed. It's a bit alternative, and I think I don't know. It kind of sprung to mind. Like, when is your first deal? And I thought about it. So you know what? The best deal, the first deal I ever did, effectively, was when I was 16 years old. I used to go down to this place called Osmington Mills in Dorset on the coast, and ever since the age of 8 years old, we'd go there on holiday at Easter in particular, in the summer as well. And we'd stay in a friend's house cottage. And then just down the road from there, I saw that there were these plots of land, the plots for chalets. And I said to my mum, Mum, we've got to get one of these because we come down here all the time anyway. And literally the next day, she put a deposit down on one. Later told my dad about this. She just was like, oh, yes, I've got to get that. Anyway, long story short, we bought a chalet there. I had a 25-year lease on it. And I then meant that I got 23 years of free holidays several times a year, 5, 6 times a year. I could go down whether it was weekend or Easter or summer holidays. And we rented it out, service accommodation. So my mum had an income being generated from that because she was a librarian in a school, so it wasn't desperately well paid. So that topped up her income. And yeah, just spent, the whole family and myself got holidays and we made some money from it. And it was a great deal. And he had a 25-year lease, so we did have to effectively sell it back to them, but we sold it back to them at, more than 50% of what we paid for it. So it definitely made its money back several times over, what with the income it generated. So it was a great deal back then. Now, same plot of land, over £500,000.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing. But you
Yeah.
went on to do some other more traditional things, didn't you?
Yes. So that was obviously when I was 16, before I'd been had any education around property. I did mastermind back in 2018, so not all that long ago, but my first deal through that, and through because I'm a supporter, and I think the mastermind is who understand and know about the wealth dynamics profiling. Supporters actually find it the most difficult to do business in property because they just want to help people. They just want to be loved by people and they want to support others. And actually, it feels awful, sort of getting a deal because it's like, oh, I feel as though I haven't paid enough or, don't deserve it. And, I just want to help other people. So I actually did it through and with a business partner. And it was just very straightforward, a single buy-to-let in Margate, and it was a flat, and I bought it for £99,000, refurbished it for about 13. It's now worth about 150, and it generates around £500 profit a month. And that's my first deal, and that was, yeah, it was nothing special, but it got me on that ladder, and it really made a difference to self-belief, confidence. Oh, I can do this. Even
Mm.
if it's with and through other people, which there's no harm in doing, especially if you like working with and through other people, which actually, in order to succeed, you always have to. So that
Well, that's
was,
a really interesting point, and you touched on it there with the wealth dynamics, which I find fascinating. So tell us more about that. What does that mean?
So wealth dynamics is, you could call it a psychometric profile, and there's over 400 different profiling tools out there, but this one is based on something called DISC, so dominance, interpersonal, steady, and compliance, and that's created back in 1935 when Carl Jung, the psychologist, brought it across from China, and the Chinese that was based on the I Ching, which is 4,000-year-old ancient wisdom. And basically, there's sort of four personality types. We all think we're unique, but we're not. We are actually quite predictable as human beings. And we can broadly be categorized into four, or in wealth dynamics terms, 8 categories or profiles, which help us understand how we think, how we communicate, how we lead a business. And the better we understand ourselves, the more we will succeed in life because we have something called flow states. When you're loving what you're doing and it's even if it's hard, you're enjoying it. That's a flow state. You lose track of time, you lose track of what's happening. You're just enjoying the moment and you're so in it that it's just fun to do. And that's the flow state. So wealth dynamics helps you to understand how to get into flow where you're naturally best. So you're working with your natural talents rather than against them. Because at school we often say, oh, you're not very good at maths. You should spend some more time and effort doing maths. Yes, because that's what you're weak at. And actually, when you're an adult, say, why the hell would you do something you're not good at? That's like pushing water uphill. It's not worth it. It's just gonna, it's gonna lose. It's just not good for anyone else. It's not good for you. So, yeah, you wanna be in a flow state, and that's what wealth dynamics helps you get to.
And I think that also helps you to find business partners, doesn't it? Because you can find people that complement
Yes,
your skills rather than all wanting to do the same
exactly.
parts of the business.
That's right. And typically, people like people who are like them. And actually, when we're employing others, we want to employ people that are like us because then we get on. But actually, that means that you're not going to have very much stability because actually, you want is complementary skills, someone who is effectively opposite to you in many ways, similar values, but maybe different skills, so that you can really build a business together with those different skills and knowledge.
And just for our listener, to do that test, there is actually a free test available on is it the Genius U website?
That's right. Genius-u.com, I think it is. And you can do a free profile just to give you one of the 4 areas, whether you're a blaze or a steel or a dynamo. So yeah, you can get a feel for what you naturally are good at.
So tell me, Dominic, why do people get all of this amazing education, all the knowledge, but don't act on it? They don't go on to have great success.
So I think we need to sort of take a step back and remember that the brain is its purpose is to help us predict the future and create the future. And so by learning information, we have a new way of looking at the future. But that conscious awareness of new knowledge, that's only really 5% of who we are. That 95% of who we are is completely subconscious. The way you breathe, the way you move your hands, your circulation. You're not thinking about all these things. It's all happening automatically. And so just learning information is great, but it doesn't mean you're dealing with the main thing that the brain does, which is to try and keep us safe. It predicts the future in order to keep us safe. And so it's always trying to avoid risk and reduce any dangers of either being rejected by society or losing money or other things that are basically holding us back. So knowing that courses are fantastic, you learn the information, but actually the real change has to be more around our self-awareness and our internal processing of how we deal with things and how we make decisions, so that because as soon as you're aware of something, you can do something about it. So aware that actually you self-sabotage often because you're maybe afraid of losing money, or you're afraid of being rejected by other people, or you think that you're not good enough because something happened to you in your childhood that meant that love was held away from you because you didn't behave in a certain way, which means that now, as an adult, you don't take certain risks because you don't want to be rejected by, your loved ones around you or by society or community or whatever it might be. So in short, your brain is holding you back and your body is holding you back because it wants to keep you safe. And unless you address those things, it doesn't matter what you learn. You can be the greatest academic, but the fact is, it's about the action you take that's really going to get you somewhere. But it's about the action with the right attitude. If you haven't got that self-belief, you haven't got that inner knowing and that confidence, actually, you'll just keep self-sabotaging. And it's kind of not your fault. It's just who you are. And that's the thing. Life is a reflection of who we are. Our external world, our success in property is really a reflection of how we talk to ourselves in particular and how we feel. And so if you deal with how your thoughts and your feelings and you understand those well enough, then you'll start to see changes on the outside world. Um, and you can do it incrementally by learning stuff, by doing courses. Um, but you can also do it by, subconscious reprogramming, which is also an area of my
What does
passion at the
that
moment because
mean?
I can see the biggest changes there. Sorry, go on.
What does that mean? Subconscious reprogramming.
So if you think of your brain like a biological computer, because that's what it has been programmed from the ages of 0 to 12 in particular. You're in a very different brainwave state to what you're in now as an adult. Um, it's theta brainwave frequencies, delta brainwave frequencies in particular, and alpha. So whereas now you're in a beta brainwave frequency, we are like analyzing what I'm saying, you're remembering what these words mean, and you're filtering, and you're kind of going, yes, that makes sense. No, that doesn't make sense. I don't believe in here. I believe in there. You're filtering, you're analyzing. As a kid, you're not doing that. You're just absorbing everything. But there's certain events and situations that happen to you as a child, which then make you go, oh, I'm not going to do that because that caused a danger in my life, or that caused me to not be loved by my parents, or that caused me to feel as though I wasn't good enough, or, I was rejected by society then, or I was reprimanded for, expressing myself in this way. And so I'm not going to express myself in that way anymore. So all of this happened in your childhood, which meant that Yeah, I mean, look at, I was at a nativity play this morning, and it's like the kids are just like on the stage having fun, and they're not afraid like adults are. They get onto a stage, and sometimes if they're not practiced, they'll just freeze, and they can't do anything. Whereas the kids are just like being themselves, and they're playful and they're joyful, and they haven't got those fears yet. They need to really develop them later on. So. I've lost my train of thought now, or lost the question. But it happened. You were programmed
Yeah.
as a kid, and that is why you have subconscious, you're not even aware of them, subconscious limiting beliefs at the moment that hold you back in your property journey.
So if we've got a listener here today that is thinking that this is me, I've got the knowledge, but I'm holding back because I don't believe I'm good enough, or I don't believe I can go out there and find the investor finance. What can they start to do to change
Mm,
their mindset?
yes. Here's the thing. Your brain doesn't really, um, doesn't believe what you tell it once. It believes what you repeat. So it's not just thinking. You've got to think, you've got to feel, and you've got to do. So you've got to think it in terms of, yes, get the right education knowledge and repeat that knowledge again and again and again until it becomes part of your personality, but also embody that. So feeling, you've got to experience it. So you've got to go out there, do the viewings, put in the offers, have the conversation, speak to the builders, all those things that you've got to do as a property investor. Actually go and do it. Don't just sit behind a computer and think it's going to happen. It happens when you're having conversations, when you're out there in the world, visiting properties, speaking to estate agents, speaking to motivated sellers, sending out the landlord letters, all of those good things that they teach you. You have to do it. Because when you do it, that you experience it, and that's when the body actually learns it. You have 20 to 90,000 thoughts a day. Most of them repeat themselves, but they are just electrical impulses in your brain. It only becomes real when there's a chemical reaction, which is an emotion, which is a feeling in the body. And the more you get that feeling, the more you learn what it is to be a property investor. So the people who take the most action tend to get the best results, even if it's uncomfortable, because it's going to be a new feeling around having those conversations with motivated sellers or builders or whatever it might be. So we have to, one is repeat it, two is feel it, and then obviously do it. So taking action. And you can also do that through journaling. So writing it down, reflecting on the day. What went well? What did I do well today? What am I grateful for? Because you can't think negatively when you're thinking about gratitude. So thinking about all the things that went well today, all the things that have gone well this week, this month, this year, repeating those. So journaling, you can do hypnosis, you can do meditation, you can do breath work to regulate your nervous system. Because another thing springs to mind. Basically, you'll never get past your nervous system. If your nervous system is like, no, I'm keeping you safe here, I'm not going to let you spend this money on this property, you will self-sabotage. Even if you've got everything you need around you to succeed, if your body doesn't believe it or want it to happen, it will just self-sabotage. And even if you do maybe get your first deal, you might screw it up because you don't believe you're worthy of it. So even when people do succeed, they then self-sabotage and the deal goes wrong, it goes south, and they lose a whole load of money and they go, I knew it, I shouldn't have done this. But it's
Wow.
all our internal processing.
Wow. I don't think I've ever quite understood the self-sabotaging until you explained it just like that. That's really interesting. Sort of, you almost want to go back and under your rock, don't you? That's what
Yes.
happens. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Interesting.
exactly right. That's a lovely analogy going back under the rock. We have something called effectively like a thermostat in a house. We've got an internal thermostat in our body around how we feel. And if we feel good all the time, then our life is up here. But if we feel negative all the time and kind of are talking ourselves down, then we'll naturally bring ourselves back down to where that thermostat is set. And that's why one of the best things you can do, just to add to the list before, is actually put yourself in an environment where success is the norm, because then it's like, oh, it's normal to be successful. It's normal to be like these other people who are successful property investors. And then you'll naturally rise because everyone else is doing the same. We have something called mirror neurons in the brain. So we will be the average of the people that we spend most of our time with. And that's also how we learn best. So putting yourself in that environment, so not behind a computer, but actually in the environment, in front of people, with people, taking action, doing things, pushing yourself, feeling uncomfortable, but doing it anyway, and being supported by others, that's where we make the most change.
That's really interesting. It reminds me of a conversation I had with the lovely Andy Haynes from PIN when I was doing Mastermind,
Yeah.
and we had a great deal. And I just didn't know how to raise the money, where to go, what to
Mm.
do. Um, and I was talking to him, and I was getting desperate. And he said very calmly and so politely, he said to me, "Danielle, I don't mean to be rude, but you're coming across as a bit desperate." He said, "Believe in yourself, believe in your deal, and the money will come." And we went on to raise, I don't know, £450,000 over the next 12 months. And it was that moment of tough love that I needed
Mm.
in that time.
Yes.
Does tough love or a kick up the backside, does that play a part in all of this?
Oh, that's such a great question because it will depend on who that person is.
Right.
Different things work for different people. That's why there's so many different therapies out there. Some people need talking therapies, others need, things like rapid transformational therapy, which is hypnosis, reprogramming the subconscious. I think tough love, here's the thing, in order for people to succeed, they need a balance of support and challenge. If you've got too much challenge, you'll make people weak. If you have too much support, you'll make people weak. But a sort of a balance of the two. So Andy was, tough love. He was loving you, he was supporting you, but he was giving you challenge to go, believe in yourself, go out there, make it happen, have the conversations. You were able to succeed. So I think, tough love is a sort of vocabulary, but we need that support and the challenge to succeed. We can't have just one or just the other.
Okay. So let's flip this conversation on its head a little bit. What are the patterns or the habits that you see in the people who are succeeding? What does their
Mm.
life look like on a sort of daily basis?
Consistency
Okay.
is absolutely critical. That discipline to consistently do the things we have to do in order to get the results. Think of the beach. That sand wasn't there originally. It used to be just rock, but the waves have just been battering that rock infinitely until it becomes sand. It's the same in business. If you are consistent with what you do, so you show up and you do your marketing, or you have those conversations, you put in the view, you go to the viewings, you put in the offers, you follow up, you keep taking the right action and adjusting as you go, you will get results. And this is why typically, and this is just from my own experience the last 7 years working with Mastermind and others, is that why is it doctors seem to do so well? Why? Because they're trained, you learn the information, you take action on the information, and you don't ask questions. You
Yeah.
just keep doing it. But most people who aren't doctors, who haven't had that sort of academic and material success in terms of earning and everything, they talk themselves out of things. And so actually what we need to do is less analysis, less sort of self-doubt and mind chatter, and just keep taking the action. And that consistency and discipline of taking the action on a regular basis, the right action obviously, means you'll get results.
So that kind of creates a new identity. You go from being this person who's a non-believer to being a believer because you are living the life of that
Yeah.
person. Is that sort of the angle you're taking?
Spot on, Danielle. Identity is where the change has to start. Because if you don't believe it, it won't happen. Whereas if you take that incremental action, that's when you're like, oh, actually, yeah, that conversation went a bit better, and that offer got considered, and it builds as you take the action, and then your self-belief and confidence builds because you're consistently taking the action. No one goes from zero to billionaire. They have to take a whole load of action to get there, right? Whether it's Mr. Beast or whether it's a property investor, no one starts out going from 0 to 100 million. It just, you have to keep taking, it's a step by step by step by step. You can take some bigger steps, definitely. And typically, people who have earned more, for example, they will make bigger steps in property because they've had more money before, and so more money doesn't phase them. I remember one lady who I worked with. She used to work with one of the big oil companies, so she was used to dealing with billions. And so when she started in property, it was like, no, she raises millions and she does £1 million deals. And it was just, that's who she is because she's used to big numbers. It didn't phase her. So she started at a faster rate and a higher level than most. So it's kind of where your comfort zone lies, basically.
That's
Yeah.
really interesting.
What are your experience in that area? Where did you see your identity shift?
Um, I think my biggest identity shift has been in doing this podcast, actually, Dom.
Mm.
Because even though I started with the idea in probably the spring of this year, and then started to put the process in place behind the scenes of how to set it all up and the branding and potential guests and what all of that would look like. I then went through probably 3 or 4 months of imposter syndrome. It was like, why would anybody want to listen to this? I'm not good enough to ask questions of people who are so much more experienced, like yourself. All this kind of stuff. But actually, as it got to the point where I started doing the interviews, and I was really nervous for those first few interviews, like you say, my identity shifted and my belief came first. I think the belief that I could do this because I was doing it, that came. And then when it went live and people started to say, oh, I listened to your podcast, suddenly there's this identity shift. And at the PIN dinner recently, I had people come up to me and say, oh, I listened to your podcast. Or they'd say, oh, I listened to the podcast the other week. And I had that split second where I thought, what podcast are they talking about? And then I suddenly went, oh my God, that's me. And that's the identity. Like suddenly that's me. That was
Yeah.
a big identity shift then. So now I
Amazing.
feel a lot more comfortable in these shoes of doing this for sure.
Wonderful. And such a great story for other people to take away and go, well, where's my, metaphorical podcast that I could do? Because,
Mhm.
we get trained in property to take action in a certain way, but that's just the way, it's being taught. But actually, you can find something within property that you can become a specialist at. For me, it was actually raising finance in particular, because that I seem to get on well with people and have conversations. And so there's a niche within property where you can really excel if you want to. And maybe for you, it's the podcast, and that's where the identity shift happens. But now you can apply that identity to something else. You go, I can succeed at this, so I can succeed at that too. And that's the thing, is people who've succeeded before tend to succeed the fastest in property. But if you haven't, just find something you're good at that you enjoy, that, is a little bit challenging, but you enjoy, and then you'll build up that self-confidence that will really help you get started and grow in property as well.
So tell me, what's the one piece of advice that you wish people would take?
I think it would be, don't it kind of I'm maybe doing the industry a little bit of a disservice here, but everyone makes out that it's really easy, and it's just not. And I think if you just understand that life is hard, then actually you'll work hard, and then you'll realize that actually it gets easier because you're willing to do the hard work. If you want it to be easy, you want to be lazy about it, it ain't gonna happen.
Mm.
Whereas if you're willing to put in graft and work hard, work smart, surround yourself with the right people, that's when actually it will get easier, because you're willing to do the hard work. And therefore it's not hard work, it's just what you do and who you are. So I think that's the big takeaway, is know that it's going to be a challenge, and enjoy and
Absolutely.
embrace that challenge.
I heard Simon Zucci say once on one of our mastermind workshops that if you're not starting to feel things snowball, then you're not doing enough.
Mm,
Just at a point there where I was just starting to feel things picking up,
momentum.
conversations with people, offers starting to be accepted, or opening doors, that kind of thing. And it's really
Yeah,
true. It's what you say, the consistency, the taking action. You've got to keep moving forward, but it's hard. It
yeah,
is hard.
yeah, yeah.
So let's pick things up a little bit now, and let's go into a quick fire round. Dom, are you
Mm.
ready?
Okay, fire
So
away.
you woke up tomorrow and found a free £100,000 in your bank account. What would you do?
100 grand, that would be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I would be spending it on options. I believe some of the best, massive growth, oh my goodness, buying a plot of land for 5 to 10 grand, but then it's worth, 200,000 when you've got permission to build on it. That's some of the biggest gains. Now, it's not necessarily fast, but, using that 100 grand for options would be my preferred way of doing it, because it's all intellectual, it's all paperwork, and you can just sell the land once you've got the permission. If you want to develop it, great. But you know what? 100 grand, you can turn that 100 grand into several hundred grand, basically, if you find the right options.
Really interesting. I love that. Okay, the most common block you see in property investors.
Thinking that they're not good enough,
Mm.
thinking they can't do it. Thinking it's too hard. The basically is it's the thinking, it's the self-talk. They talk themselves up. The most common block is ourselves,
Yeah,
and ourselves is multidimensional, of course. But it's that self-talk. You know, the people who succeed don't talk themselves out of stuff. They just keep taking action.
sure. One daily habit that improves decision making.
Ooh. So decision making is different for different people. And this is where something called human design comes in. Sorry, this is not quite a fast answer. But human design will help you understand who you are, a bit like wealth dynamics, and it will help you to understand how you best make decisions. 70% of the audience will be manifestors or manifesting generators, and their best way to make decisions is to respond to what's happening around them. And that's why we almost like need a course, we need guidance, we need other things to go, oh yeah, I should be doing that. Oh, I want to do that. I want to do these things. The other thing is some people have a sacral pull. It's like, oh yes, I feel a gut instinct to do this. And other people need to, like myself, emotional. So I need to go, oh, that's really interesting. But let me just double check that I still feel the same way 24 hours from now. So I need to ride the wave of like, I really want to do this course. This is amazing. To hang on, is this still right for me tomorrow morning? If the answer is yes, then okay. In that case, I'll make the
You have to
answer.
sleep
I'll
on
make
it.
the decision then. Yeah.
Excellent.
Which do you think you are, Danielle? Do you kind of have a sacral pull, or do you have to ride the wave of emotion, or yeah, how do you make decisions?
I definitely like to sleep on things.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I'm an accumulator as well in the wealth dynamics.
Right.
I think that
Yes.
comes into things a
Yeah.
bit.
Analysis then. Yeah.
What separates high performers from average ones?
High performance, self-belief. It basically comes down to that. You know, they haven't got that self-doubt that other people have.
Sure.
In short.
The biggest mindset mistake that new investors make.
I guess it comes back to what I said before, which is to say thinking it's going to be easy. If you think it's going to be hard and you're willing to put in the effort, then it will be easy. If you think it's going to be easy, and you'll be disappointed because it will be hard.
One belief that you'd like investors to let go of.
Let go of comparison. I think that's one
Oh,
of the biggest ones. I mean, we're kind of always comparing and judging. It's kind of how we get identity. But yeah, just let go of what other people think and do. In fact, you need to be disliked. If you're not being disliked by anyone, chances are you're not doing anything different, and therefore you won't get noticed, and you probably won't make a dent. And therefore, actually, get used to being disliked.
okay. Finish this sentence. Progress starts when?
Progress starts when you so progress is happiness. So happiness is progress. I think progress starts when you enjoy the journey, when you enjoy what you're doing.
Oh, I love that. We didn't talk very much about what freedom means, actually, which is obviously
Ooh,
why a lot of people want to
yes.
get into property. But maybe that's something we can pick up at a later date. Who
Another
knows?
day, yeah.
Your favorite book?
Favorite book. So a bit of an unusual one. Oh, I think it is. But it's called Letting Go: The Pathway of Surrender by Dr. David Hawkins. I've read it about 8 times. It's not a light book. He's quite an academic, but it's the one that has impacted me the most and has made my life an awful lot easier and better. And it's all about releasing judgment, releasing attachment, and just going with the flow of life. The guru once said, the reason why um, I'm so content in life is because I don't mind what happens. I don't mind what happens. Oh my goodness. That's
Yeah,
quite profound because everyone minds what happens. Like, I want this money. I want this relationship. I want this house. I want this deal. Like, it's like you're attached to so many things, and that's why you're upset and that's why you're not happy. It's like, don't mind what happens. I'm grateful for everything. Oh, that's profound.
love that. Yes, indeed. Finally, describe success in 3 words.
Success, freedom, mindset, and progress.
Progress.
Because
That's a
progress is
nice one.
happiness.
I like that. Dom, it's been an absolute joy to talk to you today. Thank you so much. I've certainly got a lot of value out of our conversation. If people want to get in touch with you, how would they do that?
Well, I have a fairly unique name, Dominic Beecheno. So if you Google that, you'll find me on all the social media channels. And if you just write a message rather than just connecting, write me a message saying I heard you on Daniel's First Deal Diaries, and I'll be delighted to connect with you. And also, may I say, Daniel, it's been an absolute joy and absolute pleasure. I get so much of a buzz sharing the stuff that I'm passionate about with you and with your audience. And so it's been a real privilege, a real pleasure, and it's the highlight of my day, of my week. And you know what? There's nothing greater in life than to do what you love and then share it.
Absolutely. That's a lovely place to end. Dom, thank you so much. I hope to see you again soon.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you for listening to First Deal Diaries. This episode is brought to you by Salty Air Design, where story meets design and brands breathe deep. See you next time for another First Deal story.